读书、考试、上好学校，想变成最聪明的人。如果可以的话，保护世界。
没点上课了。
Welcome. You know what, Ruben? Today we're going to look at a film titled Better Days. This is a 2019 film starring Zhou Dangju. She plays Chen Nian and Jackson Yi, and he plays a young man by the name of Liu Baishan. So this is based on a true story. It takes place in China, and these stars actually are big stars in China, and uh, and really these are two young people. So the stars of the film, or I should say the setting, not only is it in China, but it's in a school where these young people are preparing for an exam. It's a national exam that I think something like 9 million students take. And once if they pass, or at least their scores will show where they should be placed, like in the business world or in restaurants or whatever they do well in. So it's kind of like a job placement exam as well. So, but it's also a movie about bullying. So this young girl by the name of, like I said, Chan Yan, she's being bullied throughout the film because she's a very good student. There's also young people who see her in the film who are bullying her, and you see that throughout. So it's not, you see that this young girl who's preparing for an exam, but she also is not somebody who's being parented. Her mother is not there for her. She runs into this young boy who is, he looks like he's a gang member, and she helps him in this situation. So he feels like, hey, I need to help her out. And so he sees that she gets bullied, and so he becomes like her bodyguard. And you see that part of the film where she is having some time where she's not being picked on because of this boy who's protecting her. And so this film, you see their relationship, and it's not a linear situation, so a lot of times it jumps, so sometimes that could be a problem with people who are watching it maybe. But I was all in on it, and just even seeing them develop their friendship. And Ruben, there was a scene in the film. It was towards the end though, but I still think about it, where they're seeing each other, and this is after a long series of events. And one of the situation is that one of the bullies is killed, and so these two are being blamed for this death, or at least their involvement in this death of this bully. And so there's a point where they're seeing each other. I think it's in the police station, or it might be in the police car, and they're crying. And the way they cry, it's just a different. I mean, it's like they understand each other just by their different types of cries. And I thought it was just amazing. So I think about, like, wow, they could communicate with their weeping. And so I definitely would recommend this film, just because, again, this is another movie on bullying. You see that happening. You see that it happens in even in China. There is an educational piece though, because there's the teacher who doesn't really see the bullying happening, and then when it's presented to him that this young girl was being bullied, he loses his job. There's no like three strikes here. It's like, oh, you're the teacher and you didn't help this young girl as she was being bullied. Oh, you're out of here. And you see this, the way they teach there. There's a bunch of books, and they're all studying for this exam. It's all about this exam, and every desk has a pile of books. And so I didn't see a lot of great teaching strategies. And they do a thing like whoever has the best scores is sitting up front, and the one who's having the worst scores is sitting in back. So I mean, is that a strategy? I don't think it's a good strategy. But everyone sees where you're at. Okay, but I'm not sure if it makes the people in the backfield any good. But other than that, not too many teaching strategies. But I liked it, Ruben. How'd you feel about it?
Well, this is, I guess, for us, very familiar material. It's going to be hard for me to, browbeat, speak ill of a movie that scored but 93% on Rotten Tomatoes. So I don't want to get blowback.
But why didn't you like it though? I know you didn't like it, but why didn't you though?
Just it's so familiar at this point for us, and maybe that's not a good answer. But I'm being very careful on how I present my criticism. So I'm
You
just
seem like
telling you,
shocked.
at the outset is like we've seen this so many times, and it's very hard to watch a child get bullied and just pummeled and thrown down the stairs. And I'm like, I grew up watching Ferris Bueller's Day Off. I grew up watching John Hughes films. Yes, I also watched The Godfather. We watched, gritty films too, but I typically don't like just intense, intense, intense. I need some let up. I need some levity. I need some light in the darkness, and this is just too much. You just want to put a cloak over the screen and just get a break. It's just you're watching a child get bullied.
Yeah.
It's the same criticism I'm giving that one documentary we saw, but we're just bullying for 2 hours.
Oh
It's
yeah.
like, well, that's not quite my idea of entertainment. Um, the reason why I like Welcome to the Dollhouse, by contrast, is it's a comedy. So yes, you're watching Dawn get bullied, but you're also seeing some levity and some very creative pieces here throughout the film, and multiple characters that have interesting, really characterizations and humor and bring multiple things to the party. And this is just too much.
You
It
know,
was
I
just
think you're
hard to.
right. I think it is too much, Ruben, but I think what surprised me is that it's happening in, we see all the things that you gave, and you gave great examples of things that we've been watching lately. We've been watching a lot of bully movies this year for some reason, but this one is happening in China, and this movie, if you saw the ending, I guess after the credits, they show another piece where you see kind of a little not resolving, but you see what happens to them later in life. But you also see that they talk about the numbers and how many people are bullied, and that the government had to step in to create a department just to handle bullying. And we don't have that here in the United States. We do have, speak up if
Oh
you see someone
God.
getting bullied.
Oh,
But
please, please don't do that here in the
no, no,
United
no, I don't think they
States.
should do that. No,
It-
I'm not promoting. I'm just saying I was
that's
surprised that
not
China had that
that,
problem.
that's not going to do anything. That just gets people employed, makes people feel better about
Yeah, maybe
themselves.
so. Yeah.
Doesn't solve what's at the core. I'm not saying though some of the policies haven't helped. I think we've done a pretty decent job as teachers and school districts to curb this problem.
And I think it was cool though that she saw when she became a teacher, she saw a young lady being bullied. And so sometimes, if anything, of these movies to remind us that don't when you hear something and you kind of like think, well, what did I just hear? Jump on that because you don't know what kids
I
are
know,
going through. Yeah.
I know, but we talked about this so many times on this channel, though. We we
Yeah.
we've 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 discussed that very thing. Yes, but maybe people haven't seen that, and maybe this is the first time people have seen our channel. You're wrong. As a
Yeah.
teacher, when you see something, you need to speak up. You can't just think that a student, they're going to resolve their differences. Many students don't have those capabilities of doing it. Again, but I said from the outset, this is from somebody who's seen these movies over and over again. Don't like watching kids get bullied in real life. Don't like watching it in movies unless there's some comic element to it and a spin, which we've seen a couple of those to make it interesting and counterintuitive and creative. Otherwise, to me, I don't know if I could see another movie like this.
Yeah. I
I
think
just have
maybe
to be honest. Being
I think you make a
honest.
good point. I mean, I think we need to take a hold on the bully movies because they're not fun to watch and they're not easy to watch. They're not you're not comfortable with it, and because you know it's real and you know it does happen, and we've seen too much of it. So that's true. Well, yeah.
I will give it a praise in the sense that it was interesting in to see some of the cultural stuff school-wide in China. You don't see that every day, what school is like and students, and they experience some of the same things we do. That was interesting.
And
I
I
will
think
say that.
too, more than other movies, they kind of deal with parenting, how both of them were not being parented, and that and at least in that society, at least there's a lot of kids like that who have to kind of grow up quick and become adults pretty quick. Not that doesn't happen here, it does, but I'm saying, thinking that happens in China. Wow, okay, but all right. Well, listen, thank you guys for coming on with us on the channel, and please don't forget to subscribe to us. We appreciate that, and have yourself a good night. Bye bye.